What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again. Happy Saturday if you're listening to this when it comes out. And we are here with Jesse of Oceans of Slumber. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. It's so awesome to have you here. The new album is Selftitled, which has been out for a couple of weeks now. Do you just want to talk about, how the making of this record was? Was there kind of a preconceived idea? Really, how did this Self-Titled album really sort of come to be?
Yeah, we kind of started poking at it around the time when I joined the band around this time 2 years ago. So I had a handful of riffs and showed them to Dauber, and those first few riffs ended up becoming the first song off the record, being the soundtrack to my last day. And I started coming to Houston a lot more often and stuff, and jamming and writing, and it just took shape over the course of that first year. And last year in October, I stayed here for a month, and we just tracked the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to get it done so quickly,
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially, it's surprising to hear it done so quickly, because I found the music on here to be very technically impressive. And you hear you got to take your time with that. There's a lot of focus, but it's really cool to see on how all this came together so organically.
Absolutely, yeah. On the technical side of things, it was the riffs were definitely more a feel based, whatever feels best. That we kind of just rolled with that, and yeah, thus those riffs were the product of that. I guess workflow and mindset towards writing the songs and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, was this your first contribution with Oceans of Slumber, or were you featured on the Banished Heart as well?
This is my first time being on an Oceans record. Yeah.
Okay, so coming into Oceans of Slumber, were you looking at the Banished Heart and the earlier material, being okay, this is how I have to play, or did Cammy and Dober and everybody kind of want you to bring a little bit of your own mix into Oceans of Slumber?
They definitely wanted me to look back at into their older stuff. That way, I can be acclimated with what their music's about and how to, I guess, get into their headspace and vibe and stuff. But they also wanted me to bring my own flavor to things, which I think I did pretty well. I've been playing guitar for about 20 years now, and I've developed a sort of sense of my own style, and they were definitely looking forward to incorporating that into the new sound.
Yeah, because I feel this had everything that the Banished Heart had, but 10 times better, and I feel that this did have a little bit of new tricks and twists into the table that maybe we haven't gotten before.
Absolutely, yeah. Even with the addition of Samir and our other guitarist Zan, we were able to make it into something different, but still keep it Oceans.
Yeah, but I think you guys are fairly free, though, because I do consider, Oceans of Slumber's music to be somewhat on the experimental side, because you have parts that are super, super melodic. A Return to the Earth Below, I think, is a straight-up blues song. It really is, so I could hear that, in a very, very peaceful environment. It's such an easy, laid-back listen. But then to have, songs like the soundtrack to My Last Day and songs like The Colors of Grace and stuff, there are elements that are very heavy and very melodic. So I'd imagine that, Oceans of Slumber is able to kind of experiment with their sound as much as possible, right? And, try new things.
Absolutely, yeah. We, upon, writing the songs and recording them, it was just whatever the song needed or whatever felt best, and whether that be a calming song or a heavy song, it just felt right, most definitely.
Yeah. Do you almost, it might be kind of a silly question, but is it almost kind of a different strategy or maybe a different energy playing something that's super heavy versus something that's playing something very, very melodic? Is it almost kind of you have to change gears a little bit in your playing style?
Sometimes, but my musical interests have always geared towards music that has done that before. So bands like Opeth and the they go from these heavy parts to really serene acoustic melodies and stuff. And I as a guitar player, it's challenging, but it's really fun to do that because you're able to ebb and flow into the song and its energy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's nice. I like it.
Do you have a theoretical background behind your guitar playing? Like when you're writing solos or riffs, like you're thinking about the scale and the mode and the key and all that stuff, or are you more on the self-taught side and tend to improvise?
I went to school for music for about 2 or 3 years, but as far as my theory goes, it's pretty limited. But after playing for X amount of years and stuff, you kind of get an ear for what sounds right and what doesn't, and for what mood and for what I guess style you're gonna aim to play. And I would say my ear is fairly trained in that. If it sounds good, then I'll go with it, and I kind of know like my hands know where to go before my mind does, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, because I feel like having a background in theory is it does work in your favor, no doubt about it. But like, you don't also want your like guitar knowledge to sort of like enslave you. You know what I mean? You still want to kind of go
Exactly.
outside the box a little bit more.
Most definitely. I'm most definitely a more feel-based guitarist as I've progressed over the years, and I think I really like that. I'm not overthinking the technical side of things, and that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah. When we hear like the melodies and the guitars and the melodies and the aggression and the riffs and stuff, is it almost kind of like representative of like an emotion that maybe you were feeling at that particular time?
Most definitely, yeah. I find that, like, especially with the more aggressive style riffing in this record, like maybe something, maybe that day when I wrote it was an off day, maybe, and I was able to like get that frustration out by making that riff, and that kind of happens like a lot, So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good thing. It's a sort of therapy.
Yeah, it's funny too because I feel like the guitar work is pretty much like exactly what a vocalist kind of does in terms of conveying emotion and conveying narrative, and really is able to kind of really get the listener to really feel what the artists are feeling at the same time.
Yes.
It isn't just focused on lyrics, not to discredit them by any means.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a really cool way to like look at it, because I feel that way whenever I write like a like big guitar riffs of my own and stuff. It's a very like emotion based, for sure.
Yeah. Now you also play with Shattered Sun as well, right?
I do, and I also have my own band, Fall.
Okay, so being such a prolific artist, playing with Shattered Sun and Oceans of Slumber and other projects, is there maybe kind of like a different mindset or mind frame? Because I think Shattered Sun, I could definitely see crossover in fan base in terms of the melodic aspects, but I mean, Shattered Sun is very, very different from Oceans of Slumber. So is it almost kind of like a different headspace playing with those bands, or is there maybe like a usual method behind the madness that applies to everything?
There's definitely a different way to go about the songwriting process, especially with Shattered Sun. Those guys are my buddies. I've known them for almost 10 years now, and we're just friends who like writing fast, energetic music. And whether that ends up sounding a little different from what I've done with my other projects, then yeah, that's probably like what happens most of the time.
Yeah.
But it's always fun. And but with my band Fall, like I'll apply the feel-based guitar playing with that. So I would say like that's more geared towards how I would write with Oceans, for sure.
Yeah. When you like look at between this self-titled Oceans of Slumber record to the stuff that you've done with On Hope Within Hatred and the Evolution of Anger and the stuff that you've done with Fall, is it almost kind of like expressing a different side of you personally in a way?
Yes, most definitely. With the Shattered stuff, it was our singer Marcus would have like the lyrics and all that stuff, and like basically like the story behind the song. So I would kind of write for that and stuff. I would also do the same with Ocean. So I guess it's kind of like I would use the same approach, but apply what I think would fit best for that band. And yeah, it's sort of like an ebb and flow, and kind of fitting what I feel would be best for each band.
Yeah. Do you feel that maybe like working with one project allows you to bring in new stuff for another project, or do you try to keep Oceans, Fall, and Shattered Sun like completely separate entities?
Uh, yes and no. As far as like writing and stuff, I'll incorporate things that I've used like in older ideas that I thought that would be for band A, and that it would end up being for the other band. And like it just whatever works best for which band, I'll like approach it that way for sure.
Mm-hmm. In order to get like inspired to write, like do you find it easier when you're coming up with riffs or coming up with song structures? Do you find it easier when you're in the company of other bandmates in any project that you're in, or do you tend to like writing alone and kind of like where it's just you and the instrument and there's no like too many cooks in the kitchen, as I like to say?
Yeah, it varies. Lately I've been writing a bunch of my own stuff like on my own time because of COVID and all that stuff. I was able to get myself like a little home studio set up, and with that, my creativity kind of just like exploded. I've been writing songs about 2 or 3 a week. Well, whether that be a full song or just an idea, I'm still writing. And but also jamming with the band, you'll find that it's a different energy, and a riff style or like a riff that you think you wouldn't have made by yourself will happen like in the jam room. So it just varies, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you? I'd imagine too, because you play with vocals that I think have vocalists that have a very eclectic style. Like playing with Marcus and also playing with Cammy, who I think have tremendous range and tremendous lyricism, and really just really well done. Do you almost have to like adjust your guitar sound depending if you're playing like with an aggressive style vocals to a more melodic style vocals? I'd imagine that you're hitting the pedal a lot on stage, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, most definitely. I wouldn't say my style changes, but I guess whatever riff that I'm maybe playing, whether it be aggressive or soft, I'll definitely like accommodate for the singer, like before I like my playing for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Being that Oceans of Slumber and Shadows Fall are both Shattered Sun, I'm sorry.
All good, man.
Yep, and I probably said it a couple of times before, and I'm just realizing it now. But you know why? It's because you're also in the band Fall, and then Shattered Fall, it kind of morphs together a little bit.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Just did it.
Yeah, and a similar like style as well. But like, I'd imagine it also helps that like Oceans of Slumber and Shattered Sun are also kind of like in the same sort of scene as well, right? In Texas, I know it's a big state, but like, were you guys kind of like coming from a similar region in a way?
No. Houston's more East Texas, closer to like center, off like closer to the Gulf, and Shattered's from Corpus, which is still on the Gulf, but it's like closer to the south, like closer to the Mexico border. Mm-hmm. And stuff, which are two different scenes for sure. Like a bunch of different bands come from each area.
Okay.
But we all connected like through like social media and stuff, so we can keep in contact and all that shit. Yeah. Which is a good thing, because Texas is really big.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a state that's bigger than some planets.
Yeah, it really is.
Yep. And from because I've interviewed bands from Austin, from Houston, from San Antonio, from north, south, east, west. Like, it seems like there's a scene in every like town. If there's a house in Texas, there's probably a scene around it.
Most definitely, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels that way.
Yeah, I call it Sweden with sand.
That's a good way to put it. Especially West Texas, man. That's a straight desert.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you guys can play a concert there. Oceans of Slumber should play in like a desert or like a national park, somewhere where like it's just so atmospheric. Because I really feel like with this new album, this could almost be played anywhere, in a concert venue, in a desert, in the mountains. I feel like this album could be played in any setting.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, thank you. That'd be super dope to play at a place like that.
Yeah,
like at a park or like somewhere outdoors and beautiful. That reminds me of a show we did last year in Hungary at this festival called Selftitled. I think I'm butchering that name, but it was an outdoor gig, and we played at like midnight, full fucking moon too, and it was just gorgeous. It was a really cool night. Really cool night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds like a really, really cool night as well. Like, I envy not being there now. Thanks.
My bad.
But, you know, kind of, I probably should have asked this earlier, but really, like, coming into Oceans of Slumber, like, how did it come to be? Like, did you just audition? Did they reach out to you? Like, I'm curious, because was impressed with the guitar tone on here, and I definitely think it fits well. So, like, did you audition? How did you end up getting the gig?
Yeah, well, I've been friends with Dauber through like social media for like quite some time, like before that. But I remember seeing a post that he made. It was just a regular like just post on Instagram, but he hashtagged something along the lines of him needing a guitarist for Oceans, and I'm like, "Yo, what's up? Y'all need a guitarist or what?" He's like, "Yeah, you want to try out?" I'm like, "Sure, yeah, thought that'd be cool." And that first jam, we kind of like knew that I was a good fit, and the rest is history.
Did you have to play stuff off the Banished Heart, or did they kind of want to like be like, this is what we're working with now? What can you write over this?
Yeah, he wanted me to learn the Decay of Disregard first, see how I handled that, and then we moved on to like songs like The Banished Heart, At Dawn, Sunlight off of Winter, This Road. What was the other one that we did? Howl of the Rougarou. White Tonight Satin, like a bunch of songs off those first two records, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to like playing live, is there a similar energy into playing live as there is with songwriting, or do you like? I'd imagine that there's equally amount of focus, but like, is there anything that kind of like ties in the live presence versus the songwriting process, or are they two completely separate arts altogether?
They could be, especially with guitar playing. You have to really know your part to like nail it and get it as clean as you possibly can. Whereas in a live environment, it's definitely dictated by your emotions, like how you play like that song. It can be, especially when you've been rehearsing for, let's say, like a month before like a tour or like a gig. Like you all are super tight, and you're able to let loose a bit and not have to worry about playing like those songs super tight. You can just go with it and it'll sound good. But I guess recording vocals is where it's more similar in the studio and in a live setting, because you have to convey that emotion in the same way you did in the studio as in a live setting. And yeah, so it just varies on the instrument, I think, at least in my experience.
Did you have to like learn how to do you have to practice stage presence or crowd interaction? Does that come into play at all? Yeah, most definitely. Like when I first started playing live, it was I was a nervous person. I really didn't know how to interact with the crowd and stuff. But after doing it so many times, you kind of get like a feel for how you go with the show and what's the best way to interact with the crowd for you. Especially if you're like the frontman or the singer of the band. Everyone has their own style, and yeah, I kind of just figured mine out and went with that. Fair enough. I remember I saw you with Shattered Sun. I want to say the first time I saw it was on the Soulfly Soilwork tour, and then I saw the Scar Symmetry tour, and then I saw you, and then I saw you again with Soulfly last year, which I was sick as a dog at that show, so I had to like watch from like the seats.
Damn it! It was like the festival gig, right?
Yeah, where like the Soulfly and Evergrey tour like combined together. I know you were on tour with Evergrey, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, that was even though I like was sick as a dog, I still had a great time that night.
That's good, man. I'm glad you were there. Fucking, that was a killer night too. I remember that.
Yeah, it was just freezing in there. That's why I felt so like.
It was, right? Yeah.
Like I was able to see my own breath in there.
God damn, and oh man, I remember we had crashed out outside the venue that night, and we wake up to like morning traffic, and I had to take the units pissed. It was awful.
Yeah.
Like, oh, where am I gonna go? Oh my god.
And that was the second New York City show in a row that you played on 9/11 as well.
That is, yeah. Yeah, that is.
Because the Scar Symmetry tour was on that day as well as that one.
Correct, yeah. I remember that.
Odd coincidence.
Good times, man.
Yeah.
Those are good times.
Definitely. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Great to chat with you. Just, obviously thanks to a certain virus that shall not be named, obviously, tours aren't happening at the moment. But I'd imagine when all this is over, and yes, it will be over, we'll be seeing Oceans of Slumber on the road quite a bit, right? Is there maybe any live stream performances that we could be expecting to promote this new album to kind of like hold the fans over a little bit?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, we're actually planning, we're going to practice for that right here in about half an hour for a live stream performance planned in October.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so keep your eyes peeled, man.
I'm holding up the practice. I apologize.
No, not at all, man. No. We're all just chilling. Just chilling, shooting the shit.
That's awesome. But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Jesse of Oceans of Slumber, Shattered Sun, and Fall. Be sure to pick up their self-titled album, Oceans of Slumber. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We will see you next time.